All right. I think we got it rolling. Spectacular. Okay. Gonna pop out the chat so I can see it a little better. Okay. I can see that we've got a bunch of people already here waiting, which is awesome. I see that moderator Matt is here. There's been a whole bunch of chat going on already. And I think everything is set and ready to go. All right. It is a strangely foggy day today here in the place in which I live, which is strange. As it is, middle of Wisconsin in the middle of winter, fog is not normal, but it's also, I think, probably in the 30s Fahrenheit. Maybe, no, I take that back. It's 28, but it's almost 30. So, yeah, we've had a relatively warm snap this last week or so. I hope that you've been having fair weather wherever you are. Let's see, what have we got here? Got a bunch of Germany, Australia, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Canada, Kenosha, Mackinac, Illinois, Rotterdam. We've got Netherlands, we've got England, we've got more England, got some more England, got Spain, Istanbul. Let's see here, we've got some Jakarta, that's fun. Yeah, warm winter Wisconsin day. Yes, it's weird. And it's supposed to snow a bit tomorrow, but not very much. It was originally, they were like, oh, it's going to snow 5 inches. And so you better, watch out and get a shovel. And then they decided, no, we meant 0.5 inches. So not nearly as big of a deal. So yeah, we've had a relatively low snow winter here. So it's probably bad for the farmers or the people who make money off of ski resorts. I don't know. I've been happy not to have to snowblow yet. I've only had to shovel because it's been so little snow, so definitely. Yeah, so there you go. What else have we got here? Ireland, Barcelona, Pennsylvania, Brooklyn, Argentina. Oh, that's fun. Minnesota. Bob Garrett says they got 6 inches of snow in Denver. Yeah, well, Colorado. But we usually used to get tons of snow, but we have not been doing that so much lately. We did have that polar vortex sort of shenanigans a couple weeks ago where, it never got above -3 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 or 3 weeks. So that was a bummer, but it's calmed down again. Finrod says, "Hey Adam, hello from Hamburg. Just building my second Tau commander as we speak." Excellent. So, yeah, Tau was my first 40k army, actually. I thought that they would be very easy to paint, which, in the grand scheme of things, the way I painted them, they were pretty easy to paint. But, yeah, it was, for me, at the time also, it was 5th edition, and the Tau were really weak sisters back then. They were really not, and so for, starting out with a new army that could barely ever do anything, yeah, so then I got rid of them, and then new codices came out, and then now the Tau have been pretty damn good lately. So, sometimes it's best to stick with the date what brought you. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Let me see what else we got. British Columbia, Indiana, upstate New York, New Jersey, Cincinnati, Ohio. Audrey Keith says, "I love the lack of shoveling in low snow winters, but it always makes me stressed about forest fires come summer." Yeah, my wife always points out that the low snow winters are bad for the plants in general. She likes to plant things. And so I think it's also bad for pipes. And if it gets really crazy cold, but there's not a lot of snow, then it's more likely that the pipes will freeze and stuff like that because there's not a insulation, layer and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. Finland. Jack Attack says, "Hey Adam, I'm trying to get into 40k, but I don't know where to go to buy the figures." Well, you could. I would tell you to go to a local gaming store if you've got one, and they will either have them in stock or they can order them. Your other option is to buy online if you don't have any local gaming stores that carry that kind of stuff. That's probably your best bet. If you're going to order online, there are plenty of places that you can order online to get, you can order direct from Games Workshop. They'll usually have almost everything in stock, but then you'll pay full price. There are some places that will have a certain amount of discount. I think Games Workshop allows up to a 15% discount for online retailers, but they may not have everything in stock and whatever. So, try to either find a retailer that you like locally. I would tell you to go locally first. If you can't find one locally, then go online. And then, if the people online don't have the stuff you're looking for or whatever, then I would definitely tell you can always go to gamesworkshop.com. I think maybe there's a hyphen in between games and workshop. But you should be able to go from there. What else have we got? Painting up the skeleton starter set for the Malign Portents painting competition. Well, that'll be kind of cool. I've got to get for Shadespire, I built just before I got sick, I built the 4 orcs in that particular box set. And I'm going to do the skeletons after them, but the orcs are coming first. But I am looking forward to painting the skeletons because I just love skeletons. They're awesome. So, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Adrian Warner says, haven't had snow here since 2010. Well, it depends, I guess, where you live, really. Six Gunner says, Adam, how do you like the new Nergal models? Well, it's interesting because I was looking at I was at the shop yesterday and I was looking at the Great Unclean one, and I'm kind of interested. I think he'd be a fun paint job. I don't know. He's $140 though, and I got to be honest with you. What's his name there? The Glotkin is cheaper, and yet I think bigger and much more detailed. And he can kind of only really be built the one way, the Glotkin, whereas the Great Unclean one can be built a couple different ways. But yeah, I just don't know. I haven't really looked real closely to see what the stats are like either. So I don't know. Maybe down the road, maybe I'll pick one up, but I don't plan on it. And then there's that guy that's riding the snail. I don't particularly. I got to be honest. I'm not a big fan of the newest sculpts. I love the Putrid Blight Kings. I love obviously the Nergal Chaos Lord, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff is my jam. But some of the newer stuff, specifically I just have never liked Nerglings. That kind of stuff is just not my thing. I don't know what it is. I think that they drive me a little nuts because they're almost a bit of a comic relief sort of situation. So yeah, I don't know. Let me see here. What else? Justin Halifax says, so I want to get into an Age of Sigmar or 40k or more 40k, but I would like to spend less, so Sigmar seems good. One small thing though, I don't like to paint. Well, if you don't like to paint, then I would probably tell you to start looking for a commission painter. Look for somebody who maybe lives in your area who... a lot of times, commission painters will go to local shops and let the shop owner know about the fact that they do commission painting, because I'm sure the shop owner is like, I would like to sell models to this person, but this person has said they don't want to paint. So if I can say, well, I know this guy and he does painting and here's his information and his Facebook page or whatever, then, that'll help. So I would tell you to do that. You can also obviously look online, but sometimes it's better to just kind of do it with someone who's kind of nearby. Then the two of you can meet at the shop, and then you can give them the stuff, and you don't have to ship it and pay for all that stuff. And then, it's just worked out pretty well for me in the past. I just had 2 warbands of for Frostgrave painted up locally. I was like, I wanted to do the painting myself, but I knew that I was just, my time is limited. So I'm like, well, all right. So I'll work with a local guy, and he does great work, did amazing work. So I'll show those off here either on the channel directly or through the live show coming up soon. But they turned out really, really well. So if you don't like to paint, I would tell you either learn to do it and learn to like it, or find yourself a commission painter. Those are probably your 2 best options. Hi from Paris. Have you ever played Shadespire? Yes, I have. I did a video about it, at least one video, if not two videos about it, before it came out, because they sent me a copy probably a month before it came out. I painted up my copies, or my copy, of the two different forces, the Stormcast and the Khorne dudes, and then took them with me to Valhalla back in October, to the Wargaming retreat that I went to. And yeah, took them out there and did some demos and played some games out there. We're going to start playing it a little bit more locally here. I've got some friends who are kind of getting more into it, and so that's going to be fun. But yeah, I think it's a good game. There's going to be a tournament for it, I believe, at Las Vegas Open that I'm going to this upcoming weekend. So yeah. And of course, I believe there's also going to be at least one, if not a couple, different events for it at Adepticon coming up in March. What else have we got here? Adrian says, I'm a commission painter. Local shop always refers me work. Adam is spot on. Go ask in a local shop. See, there you go. A lot of commission painters will do that because it's kind of like back in the day when I was in college. I worked at a camera shop, and wedding photographers would come in and leave us cards and stuff like that, because then people would come into the local camera shop and go, I need to find a wedding photographer, and I don't know. And again, this was in the 90s, so there wasn't a lot of internet to go look up on, early 90s. But they would come in, and then we would give them, the cards or whatever, that kind of stuff. And yeah, it makes sense, especially for something where you need to be kind of local generally. And it's not important that you're local for a commission painter, but it can help. It can save you money on shipping at the very least. Let me see here. Ari, maybe mispronouncing that. Playing around with the flying bases for the Caradron, I can't ever pronounce their name either. Caradron Overlords airships, trying different approaches to hide the base of the pin. Yeah, those flying stands are difficult for me sometimes. I've got my what the heck is that guy? I got the Helldrake. I've got a Storm Talon. And both of them have those kind of weird sort of cross piece, flying bases. And, I don't know. They're like, it's really hard for me to try to paint the base then below, because I'm like just the gluing for texture stuff down. I'm going to get it on the clear part, and it's just a pain. I don't know. Ben asks, hey Adam, what are you doing Age of Sigmar wise? I'm currently working on my Beastclaw Raiders. Right now, like I said, I'm predominantly going to be working next on the orcs for Shadespire, which is Age of Sigmar adjacent, but technically a different game system. Same world, different game system. And then after that, I don't know. Right now, I haven't been doing a lot of Age of Sigmar stuff. I've been focusing more on Shadespire, and then also I've got a bunch of terrain to build. I've got my 40k force to work on. They're all ready to go as far as priming. They need to be primed, but everything else up, texturing and everything else is done. And then Wreck Age, I've got the ARC troopers. I want a faction of those to be built up, or I've got the models. I need to build them and then paint them for Wreck Age, so that they can go up against my stakers. And yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at right now. The next thing I need to do for my Age of Sigmar, though, is probably work on my skeletons more, my Death Army. Oh, I do have a figure, actually, Vampire something or other, Vampire Lord, Vampire Count, some sort of vampire dude, who he's going to be actually one of the episodes of a new show that I'm working on for the channel. I told the patrons. I had the video chat with the Uncle Adams Irregulars, which are the top tier patrons. I had that video chat, that private video chat yesterday. I see some of the folks in here that were in there yesterday. But anyway, so I've got a new show coming up that I'm going to be doing, and it's kind of like This Old House. I don't know if you've ever seen This Old House on American Public Broadcast, PBS. So it's basically like what happens is I go online and I find a really rough looking model on eBay that someone is selling, and I strip all the paint off of it and kind of redo it and give it some love and paint it back up again and sort of go through that. And the show is going to be called Uncle Adam's Miniature Hot Mess, with thanks to VJ Morph in the chat. He was the one who came up with Hot Mess, and then I just added miniature to it. So yeah, but yeah, that's coming soon. And it's a metal model. They sell it still in that weird resin that they don't call fine cast anymore, but it's basically fine cast. And he's like in armor, and he's got like a vampire type head, and he's got a sword in one hand, and his other arm is like up real high above his head, and it's just all bat wing, so he's like kind of mid sort of transfer, I guess. And so you might, if you've been paying attention to the Vampire Counts line for a while, it's an older model, but yeah, that's something that's going to be for my Death Army. So he's going to be one of the guest stars for that show when it comes out. I don't know if I'll be putting that show out on Fridays along, like interspersing it in between, or if it's going to be like a different day of the week. It's not going to be a steady show, kind of like, the normal Friday show or whatever. It's going to be like, from time to time it'll get slipped in here and there or whatever, but that's where it's going right now. Miguel asks, Uncle Adam, will anyone else be with you in the seminar for LVO? I hope some people sitting and watching the seminar, but no, I will be. The two seminars that I'm giving at the Las Vegas Open, but they're both about YouTubery. One is more about the technical stuff, and the other one is about like branding and strategy and marketing and stuff like that. And I'm just teaching both of them. I think it's on Saturday night, so I believe Friday night is one of the seminars, and then Saturday night is the second seminar, and then directly after my Saturday night seminar, we're doing I've been told we're doing a media panel, which will be me, Dave from Mini Wargaming, Carl from the Independent Characters podcast, Miranda from Wargamer Girl, us four at the very least, and maybe some other people as well. And so there'll be just a panel, and we're going to do that. So we'll be taking questions and just whatever and hanging out and stuff like that. So that'll be fun. So in that panel, I'll be not just there by myself, but for the seminars that I'm giving, it's pretty much just me and then the people listening to me yammer on. So yeah. What else have we got here? Sam Hinchy says, what motivates the Death Army in Age of Sigmar? Never understood what their drive is. Well, I mean, the skeletons, they don't have a motivation themselves. They're being motivated by generally necromancers and vampires and stuff like that. Those guys are just bad, what do bad people want? They're just, that kind of stuff. Power, control, that kind of jazz, I'm assuming. So, yeah, but no, the skeletons themselves, they don't really have any motivation. They're just pretty much automatons to some degree that have been, spurred on by the necromancers and their magics and whatnot. I really like the concept of necromancers. I don't know why. I've always just thought necromancers were cool. I mean, I think it was from old video games, like playing games like Oblivion or a bunch of the other Elder Scrolls games where you just kind of go into like a cave, Morrowind too. You go into a cave and there's just like skeletons hanging around there like on patrol, and you're like, and I would think about it and be like, who put those skeletons here? Skeletons don't just like, appear naturally like, quartz or wildflowers. Someone had to set them up, and make them do a thing. What are they protecting? Why are they here? How long have they been here? Is that necromancer even still alive? That kind of stuff. It's just kind of an interesting thing. If I was ever going to write like a novel or stories or whatever, something like that, it would probably be about a necromancer. I mean, it would end up being funny because that's the only thing I seem to know sometimes. But yeah, I think it would probably be something along those lines. And Lord knows those new skeletons, the models they made for Shadespire, which you guys have seen in the Sam videos, are crazy good. So I'm really hoping for them to be doing some more of that for Age of Sigmar once they get this Nergal stuff kind of out of their system and move on to something else. So, what else have we got here? 686 says currently painting Finecast Tomb King's Yushtabi. Ushapti. I can't ever pronounce that word either. The material is driving me crazy. Yeah, Finecast is rough business. I mean, I understand to some degree why they went that direction. They have a bunch of masters, and by masters I mean the particular sculpts and all that kind of stuff for a lot of these older figures. And metal, the price of metal is very volatile. Metal models because of the tin, from what I understand. And moderator Matt Sears here would know a lot better than I would about the volatility of metal. But I got a cough. Hang on a second. Okay, so yeah, so at scale, when they're a company as large as they are, they would end up having to go through probably and redo a lot of stuff to make it so that those models could be done in plastic. Well, I mean, they absolutely would have to. They can't just take the sculpts they've got now and to go, okay, let's make these in plastic, because it's a totally different process to make the molds and the whole deal. So they're like, we need to keep making these types of molds for these figures that we have in stock, but we don't want to use metal anymore. So they switched to this stuff, which is probably really cheap. It was a bad marketing plan to call the stuff Finecast after seeing the result, because it's not that fine. Yeah, so which is why, like I said, they're really just not referring to it that much anymore. Now they just call it resin. Oh, this model is available in resin, and they don't say it's Finecast anymore. So yeah, we'll see. As they go through and make new models and kind of eventually phase out the other ones, you'll probably see less and less of that. And what's interesting to me is that they've been doing these things from time to time where they're like, oh, we're going to make a bunch of models on demand, and then but they send them to you in metal. You know what I mean? And I think that they're honestly, if I had to guess, I think they're going along and trying to find the right price points to get metal, and then when the price of metal is low, then they do that whole thing about how you can buy models on demand, buy the old stuff that you wanted and stuff, and we'll make it out of metal and ship it to you. And then you're like, yay! And then when the price of tin goes back up again, and then it's too expensive to do it, or more expensive and less profitable, then that's not available. So if I had to guess, I'd wonder if that's what it is. Oh, what have we got here? I'm new to Warhammer and want to get into Age of Sigmar. I want to get the starters set, but I want to make a Death Army too. What should I do? The starter set is honestly only really useful if you want to play one of those two armies. The starter set, the big one, is not... There's nothing in the starter set that you need unless you need those models. The thing about Age of Sigmar is the book, such as it is a 4-page PDF, which is free. The War Scrolls are free. You can also use the app, which is free. So if you want to play a Death Army, then just get like one of those start collecting boxes for Death, or something along those lines, and play that. You don't need the starter box, because there's really nothing in there that's required for the game. The starter box is a very good deal if you want a Stormcast army or a Khorne Bloodbound army. But if you don't want either of those armies, then there's no reason to buy the box. If you just want one of those armies, maybe you can find a friend who wants the other one, and you guys can split it, or you could sell it on eBay, the other half, or whatever. But if you just want to play Age of Sigmar and you want to play Death, you can completely skip the starter box. It's not a necessity at all. So, just FYI. Let me see here. What else have we got? Retap says, agreed, as a Necron player, I can tell you the horror stories about that material. Yeah, I had a friend who was playing Necrons for a while, and he just, like, when Finecast was at its kind of biggest point, he just had a big box of, he would buy some sort of Necron Overlord, and then the cape on it would be so thin that there would be holes through it, and you could see light through it. And then he would, like I said, we don't live real near a GW store, so he would just buy them, and then... you couldn't tell in the packaging, so he would like look through it once he took it out of the packaging, and then he would see holes in it, and everything would be missing, and all these problems and stuff. And then he would get like 4 or 5 of them, and then go down to the Games Workshop in like Milwaukee or something, and then basically swap them in, and then just keep. He'd be at the store, and they'd be like, "Well, you can get a one off of the shelf," and then he would open that one up, and that one would also be see through, and then he'd be like, "Well, this," and then he'd just stand there and just do it until he finally found one that was at least an okay, competent pour, and yeah, it was difficult. The Necrons were real difficult to do in Finecast because they're so skinny. You know what I mean? So like a real thick model, like Finecast is perfect for like Plague Marines or anything Nergal, because if it's got pits in it or bubbles or whatever, it's just Nergal. It looks fine. You know what I mean? But for something real skinny like Eldar or for Necrons, it's a rough material to use. The Noob Painter says, "Howdy, y'all. Did I miss anything interesting?" Well, it's foggy here, and I talked about Finecast for a while. That's pretty much about it. Retep says, "I'd rather have metal than resin Finecast." Honestly, absolutely, totally. Like, I like metal models, especially when they're like low part. Like if there's like a ton of parts, like the ton of little tiny parts, like the ones from Infinity. I am not fond of that metal, but like a couple, 3-4 parts maybe max. For pretty much any metal model, like from Games Workshop, from Wreckage, from the old back before Malifaux started doing plastics. I liked most of their metals fine. Now, admittedly, like, they went from traditional okay sculpts to crazy 3D super dynamic sculpts, which look amazing, but are actually really hard to store or to even sometimes play with over there at Weird. But, they do look amazing. But yeah, I don't like... I don't like it when people try to push metal too far, and I feel, frankly, that sometimes, at least in my opinion, that's what Infinity can do sometimes. And I'm maybe not that good of a modeler, I'm sure that there are people out there who are big fans of Infinity models who will like, well, you're just not very good at working with metal, and I will agree. Maybe that's part of the problem, but yeah. JKYQCG, I can't pronounce that. Working on 20 scouts and 2 bikes to finish for my LVO army. Down to the wire as usual. Still have to paint my display carryboard too. Yeah. Most people that I know that are working up to a convention, like a tournament or whatever, frequently have a tendency to work up until just before the tournament. I don't know why. That's human nature, I think. So, yeah. What else have we got here? Tyler Barry says, "Adam, I just got a Battle Systems set of terrain. It's really great. Have you ever checked it out?" A Battle Systems set of terrain. I don't think I'm familiar with that one. No, I don't know them. Adrian Warner says, "There are some folks in the Ukraine and Russia doing their own resin sculpts that are really nice, 40K and Sigmar, etc." There's a company called, I can't remember it now, Wargame Exclusive, maybe? Something like that. I don't know if they're from Poland or the Ukraine or Russia, somewhere over there. And they do their own sculpts. Like, they make stuff that's like, oh, this is, they call them like, space robots, but they're really kind of Necron-ish, or they call them, I don't know, I forget what name they call them, but they're kind of like Tau. And they do a lot of weird pinup stuff, which I find very strange. Like I can understand if you're going to do pinup Sisters of Battle because, I don't know. But like pinup Tau, or weirder yet, pinup Necrons. That's really weird, in my opinion, but people like what they like. That being said, they do have some models which I think are spectacular. I really don't like the Obliterator models that Games Workshop's been making for the Chaos Space Marines like forever, and I just think they're terrible looking. They've always looked terrible. I've never liked them. I've always wanted to run Obliterators, and I've always ended up just taking a whole bunch of weapons and sticking them to Terminators and then covering them in green stuff and trying to make that work. And it's hard. It doesn't work out great. And I got to be honest, these guys make Obliterators. They call them something else, but they make Obliterators that are spectacular looking. So I bought some from them, and their resin, and really nice resin. Great resin, great to work with, basically no mold lines. I was really surprised. So so I have a set of 3 of them that are built and primed and base colored to some degree. I've got a finished base coloring in them, and they will be part of what will take my Chaos Army in 40k from 1,500 to 2,000 points. Them and a couple of Hellbrutes, and then I'm there. So there are some people like Puppets War and Spellcrow and companies like that over in Eastern Europe who are doing really, really nice resin, and they seem to have their stuff all dialed in properly. And honestly, I think that if Games Workshop had done a bunch of those sculpts which are originally in metal, if they had made those originally for resin, I think they would have been better. But what they were trying to do was take the stuff that they already had set for metal and just swap out metal for resin, and I think that's part of the problem. It's part of the reason why like those Necron guys were so skinny, and it was problematic there, and just there's a lot of different stuff. So, let's see here. Danny Eccles says, I love the Infinity Minis. I don't find them too difficult to assemble, but I started with Airfix, so I'm used to small parts, and they are still a bit of a pain in the ass to assemble. Yeah, no, I agree. I've built all of 2, frankly, Infinity models. One of them, I swear to, if you go back in the day on the Beasts of War website, I did a review / really unboxing. It was really an unboxing for an Infinity bag made by Battlefoam. I want to say it was Infinity Alpha or Infinity Beta bag. And if you were one of the first 750 people to buy the bag, then they sent you a limited edition special miniature, which was like some sort of mercenary Infinity dude, and he was like standing. He had like one leg up and was sort of like was standing on the Infinity bag. And anyway, so I was like, all right, well, I'll show off the bag here in the video, and then I'm going to show off this model, and then I'm going to put the model together, and then I'll come back, and then show. And that model was like a dozen or 16 pieces. It was ridiculous. Tiny, weird little armored fin things on his thighs and stuff, and it was just crazy. And it took forever for me to build. And so that was one of them, and I built another one other time, and then I look at, because I own a bunch of Infinity models that I've never built. I look at those boxes and I open them up, and I'm like, yeah, that's too many pieces. Now I know that they've made obviously some models that are maybe like 2 pieces, which is awesome. I like 2-piece models. That's fine. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Let's see here. Adrian Warner says, that's the company I was thinking of, Adam. They do have some really nice figures. But yeah, the pinup stuff is a bit bizarre. Yeah, it's like I said, I think it's called Wargame Exclusive or Wargames Exclusive. And like I said, they don't, like, it's not like those Chinese companies that like just completely rip off and make recasts. It's not a recast company. They sculpt everything themselves. And admittedly, the things are generally designed to be used with Games Workshop stuff, and they kind of skirt around the naming so they can do that. But they do have some really amazing looking stuff. They also have some weird stuff, but they have some amazing looking stuff. So, yeah. Dorky Dad says, do you have any go-to recipes for painting colors of hair other than brown or black? Trying to spice things up, but haven't been too happy with the results. Thanks. I'm not great at blonde, but red hair is not super difficult. I think it's an older color, maybe not. I can't keep track anymore. Games Workshop has changed names quite a bit. But I start with, for like red hair, I start with a base color of like, I think it's called Scrag Brown, which is like a medium brown, but it's kind of a reddish brown. So I do that. And then I go back over with, I either add in a little bit of red to the Scrag Brown on my palette and then go back there, or orange. You can do that too. You can try to find a real dark orange and then kind of do either some highlighting or dry brushing, depending on how coarse the hair is. More often than not, I end up doing some sort of kind of like highlighting type paint over the brown, so that you can still see brown in between a little bit and that kind of stuff. That reddish brown, that Scrag Brown. And then I throw a wash on it, either a red style wash or a brown, sometimes a sepia. Sepia is not too bad too. Like, it depends on how crazy red you want the hair to be. So like a real reddish brown base, like a scrag brown or something like that. Then a brighter reddish orange, to do the highlights. Then a wash, like a sepia or a red, depending on how you want to go. And then again, I go back with that same kind of orangish, reddish, the second color, and then do a little bit of real dry brushy highlighting on some parts. That's a real quick, simple kind of way to get a red, because you want, like, red hair has got brown at the base of it. It's the highlights that are generally a brighter color, and more skewing towards the orangish color. As far as blonde, I've never been good at doing blonde. So, yeah, you may have to look a little bit more online and try to find some more of those things. VJ Morph says, Adam, you say you prefer less pieces, but do you prefer the monopose push fit over multi-part posable? Well, when you're getting into plastics, then it's a different story. Like with the guys for, what is it? Like the models for, say, like something like Shadespire, where you have a force. I'm fine with those being those push fit guys because I know it's helpful for people who are trying to get into the game who don't have glue or whatever, or aren't going to paint them anyway. Also, like you're never going to run two of any of those guys. The problem that I sometimes have with those monopose push fits is if you're trying to build an army with them, then you have a whole bunch of guys who have the sword over their head. And you're like, well, did we all decide to have the sword over our head at the same time? And you can't really kind of, mix them up a little bit. But for an army, but for a thing like Age of Sigmar, Shadespire, where this is you only have 4 guys in the force, they can all be as cool poses and craziness as you want, in my opinion, and it's fine. But if I'm trying to build Space Marines, let's say, then I would prefer to be able to sometimes have the guy hold his gun up this way versus down this way, or I'd have him twist his torso this way, or whatever, so that I can have a lot of variation, because I'm going to need a bunch of guys. So it depends. As far as metal is concerned, again, it's the same type of deal. Like if they only made 4 poses of such and such soldiers, but I need to have 50 of them, and they're all this, and they're all one piece, they're all going to look kind of the same, which is a bummer. So that's when I do prefer. I don't know. Like I got to be honest. It seems like with I don't know. The multi-part metal models that I come across from time to time sometimes don't. Some of them are a little bit more customizable, but some of them are also almost just as much push fit as anything else, except they don't actually fit when you push them. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the Privateer Press ones, like now they've gotten it so that arm goes in just one way. There's like a pin, and the arm goes in this way, which you guys can't see. Doesn't go in this way, doesn't go in this way. It just goes in one direction, which is great when you're building one of them. But if you need to build 4 of those guys, then you need to do a bunch of work if you want them to at least have slightly different poses. So, it depends, like most things in the world, I guess. Got a bunch of other people here talking about different hair recipes, so that's good. Go take a check at those if you are able to. Those of you who are watching this recorded will sadly not be able to see a bunch of this stuff. So, one of the reasons you may want to be here live, just saying. What else have we got here? Alejandro says, the part I like less from this hobby is building, and mass building is my torture. Yeah, I mean, everybody's got different things that they like and dislike about the hobby in some situations. I've got a friend of mine who lives down the block who doesn't play, doesn't paint, but loves to build and convert. I used to work with him, and I did not realize he had anything to do with any kind of like Games Workshop or anything like those lines. But we started talking one time about stuff, and then he was like, "Oh yeah," and he was telling me about all the stuff he loves to build and the way he loves to convert the models and do all this stuff. And then I was like, "Well, we should get together and play sometime." He's like, "Oh, I haven't played since high school, and I don't really paint." So he just builds and converts, and then I don't know, they just sit there, which is that's what he likes to do. It makes him happy and gives him some sort of kind of meditative or whatever hobby time. It's great. You don't have to paint stuff if you don't want to, really. If you don't play, certainly. Like if you're playing against people and you and your friends never bother to paint anything and you're all cool with it and on the same page, more power to you. That's cool. That's one of the things that's great about this hobby, which I've said time and time again, is that it's variable. You can play how you want. You can hobby how you want. It's your hobby. And if you find people who are got the same idea as you, then you're all on the same page and you're having a good time. So, which with video games and stuff like that, it's difficult because kind of the programming really sort of, makes things happen the way they have to happen. You can do mods and things like that, but it takes a lot more work. What else have we got here? We've got Battle Systems Tyler says, Battle Systems is a modular terrain all over printed Gesundheit. Battle Systems is a all modular terrain all over printed cardstock that slot together or use plastic clips. They have several different sets. Oh, I think I saw them once. Where the heck did I see it? Yeah, it's like a printed, kind of like, it's like cardboardy plastic, sort of, kind of like, if I remember correctly. And it's printed on there, and you clip it all together to make stuff. Yeah, I do remember them. I've seen them somewhere. Convention, maybe. Someplace. Anyway, yeah. That's cool. I've seen that stuff. And if everything on your board matches, like it's all made out of that stuff, I think it looks really nice. I think it looks a little weird if you've got like 3 pieces that are like painted plastic or cardboard and scratch built or whatever, and then you've got that stuff on there. It looks a little out of place, but if everything on the board is like that, it looks really cool, I think. Adrian says, I only build in paint, I don't play at all. See, there's a lot of different ways to do it. Peter Pan says, I hate waiting for primer to cure. I use a hairdryer a lot of times to help speed that along, but because I do a lot of it with airbrush, I just kind of have to wait. Like I have been stung before by thinking that my hairdryer action has done the job, and then I start brushing or dry brushing on something, like an hour after I've primed it, and then the paint comes off sometimes. So really, with airbrush primer, I would still cook it a bit with your hairdryer, but I would still let it sit maybe overnight before you start trying to paint on it hard. With rattle can, I think you can go a lot quicker, frankly. But with like airbrush, you got to give it some time. So yeah. Joshua Daniel Flores, what audiobooks do you listen to while hobbying, Uncle Adam? I'm currently listening to the audiobook version of Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I'm making custom minis of the characters via Hero Forge. Oh, that's cool. Hero Forge, for those of you who don't know, is a website where you can kind of build a figure, a 28 millimeter or bigger model out of different parts. They have all these different parts, and you can say, I want these gloves and this hat and all that kind of stuff. And then they 3D print it at Shapeways and ship it to you. And it's not bad, actually. They do pretty good work now. Anyway, what audiobooks do I listen to? I have been buying and have not yet started listening to, but I've been buying. I've got an Audible membership, and Games Workshop has started putting stuff on Audible, so I've got a whole bunch of the earliest Horus Heresy stuff on Audible that I'm going to start listening to soon. Otherwise, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I was kind of getting behind on some of my podcasts, so I have some runway on more podcast listening. Hopefully, I will eventually catch up, and then I'll probably start listening to some audiobooks as well. Otherwise, I like to listen to John Scalzi, is a sci-fi writer who has got a bunch of books that I've really loved, and I've listened to a bunch of those on audiobook. Ready Player One, which is soon to be a movie this year, I think. Directed by Steven Spielberg. I listened to that originally on audiobook, and I would tell you if you want, go listen to it before you go see the movie, because I think they're going to have to cut a lot out of the movie. But, it's pretty good, though. So, what else have we got here? Let me see here. Wings Vicarus says, I started 3 weeks ago and I chose Death Guard. Had a crash course in learning to paint. Yeah, Death Guard, that's the thing that's sort of nice about Nergal and Death Guard and stuff, is that if you paint and sort of slop it up again, it's Nergal. It's okay. You know what I mean? You're fine. If you painted Nergal really clean, that would look weird, So, yeah. Lee says, I grew up in Las Vegas, and I wish I was going out for the LVO this year. This is the first time I've ever been, honestly. I've never been to Las Vegas. I've never been to the LVO before. I've never been to Las Vegas before. So, and I'm really only going to be there about just shy of, well, just a little over 2.5 days, really. I'm going to get there on Friday at around 11:30 or so local time in the morning. And then I'll go to check into my hotel room, and I'll check in at the convention. I'm in the same hotel. It's all in the Bally's? I think it's in the Bally's. Why don't we go look? Hey, look at this. Whoop. Oh, I'm behind this. No, over here. Here we go. So yeah, this is the website for the LVO, and I'm going to go there. So you can see my mouse over here now. Yeah, Tabletop Gaming Convention. 3 days of gaming and fun in fabulous Las Vegas. See, that's Elvis. That's like that's Elvis who's in Power Armor, I guess. So yeah, that's what they got going on. This doesn't scroll. There's a registration thing over here, event information, and book your hotel. Event information is really the only thing that we're super interested in. So there's going to be gaming, there's going to be seminars, and social events, which is cool. I know that one of the social events, I think they're going golfing or something. It's crazy. I'm not going to go golf. But yes, Bally's Casino, which is right across from the Bellagio, which is the one with all of the crazy fountains. Yeah, January 26th through the 28th. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, this upcoming. And like I said, we'll be getting there on Friday right around 11 in the morning or so, 11:30. And I'll be leaving on Sunday, I don't know, like at 6:30 or something like that p.m. So yeah, just basically it's 2.5 days for me. There's going to be tabletop tournaments, narrative events, campaigns, hobby classes, vendors, new product releases, social events, and so much more. It's Games Workshop events, media coverage. They'll be broadcasting it on Twitch, so you can check it out there. That'll be fun. There's Friday events, Saturday events, and Sunday events. I think these are all opening up these are all opening up spreadsheets, unfortunately. There's going to be open gaming area. There's going to have some Pathfinder, which is a RPG. Seminars, hobby events. Which am I? Am I a hobby event? I don't remember. I'm probably a hobby event. And like I said, this opens up a doc file. Player packet. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on there. I don't know if they have any past pictures or anything like that. There's people from Frontline Gaming. All this is being put on by Frontline Gaming out of San Diego, which is a gaming store that's also an online retailer and sells tons of stuff. And they also do commission painting and all that stuff. They've got a 2016 video, big list of sponsors. I mean, Games Workshop's going to be there. Privateer Press, Broken Egg Games, Warlord, Anvil 8, Hawk, Zombie Smith, which I haven't thought of Zombie Smith in a really long time. Battle Foam, Shapeways is going to be there. Oh, here's some pictures. Oh, good. So that guy's wearing a hat. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's going to be interesting. Like I said, it's a smaller convention than, say, something like Adepticon. Adepticon's around 4,000 attendees. This is, from what I understand, about maybe 1,500, but it's been growing kind of quickly. It's a different time of the year from a lot of the other conventions, which is good because it's in the winter, but yet it's also in Vegas. And so, yeah, I think it's going to work out really well. You can see over here, that looks to me, if I had to guess, probably Drop Zone Commander. That's obviously some 40K. War Machine. That's a weird stripe. There's a lot of stuff going on there. So I'm looking forward to, seeing what I can see while I'm there. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do while I'm there, other than the seminars that I've been signed up for. Like, I don't know if I'm going to do, what do you call it? Like interviews, talk to some of the vendors. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm flying on an airline that I'm not usually happy to fly on, but it was the only good times that I could get. So that was kind of a bummer. So yeah. Let me see here. Lee Langston says, same place that Gamma was for a long time. Yes. Gamma is like the Game Manufacturers Association of America or something like that. And that convention is now moved to Reno, Nevada, which is not in Vegas, but it's close. I might be going to Gamma as well for not for the channel particularly, although I'd probably do at least some sort of like social media pictures and reporting from it to some to fit some reasoning. What I would be going to Gamma for instead, which is in early March. It's before Adepticon. Gamma is. The Gamma I'd be going for Game 4 for the app that we're working on at work. So yeah. Yeah, that's where we're going to be doing. We might be. So Gamma, the booths are all sold out, but we're on the first on the waiting list. So if we get a booth, then we'll be out there. And the thing that's nice about Gamma is that the people walking around aren't like gamers like you or me. They are all store owners, and all the booths are predominantly game manufacturers and people who are trying to get the attention of store owners. And so that's one of the reasons that it would be perfect for us to go. Definitely. Anyway, so yeah, Las Vegas Open in the next couple. Well, it's kind of in the next couple of days. I'll be leaving on Friday. I'll be doing my 2 seminars there. The one about both about YouTubery. One's about tech. One's about. The upside is if you're going to Las Vegas Open, I think there's still definitely seating available for both of those seminars. If you want to go see my seminars those same seminars at Adepticon, those are all sold out, as it turns out. I thought there was still a couple seats left for the second one, but I looked yesterday and they're sold out. So, yeah, those seminars are sold out, which was, it's great. I appreciate it. But I know that there were still some people that are interested in checking it out and stuff. So, yeah, if you've got the ability and you're going to be at the LVO, and try to make with seminars there, and then you'll be set. Anthony B says, haha, sounds like Spirit Airlines. Yes, it's Spirit Airlines. Not looking forward to it. Everybody else, every other airline I looked at was like, well, we'll get you there at 7 o'clock at night on Friday. And I'm like, well, then I'll have missed all of Friday, won't I? They're the only people who are like evidently ready to fly people in the morning. I think it's because all those other airlines are in cahoots, which is a fun thing to say, cahoots. And I think it's because they want, like, if they get you there like 8 o'clock at night, well, then you end up having to actually fly the day before, which means you spend another day in a hotel. And so, that's how they get you. Yeah. So anyway, I think I have to stand. I don't know. Maybe I get a chair, like a folding chair on Spirit Airlines. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll see. Anthony asks, is TMX 2018 happening? Yes, it is. It is June 9th and 10th. I will be updating the website and starting to announce it more officially, probably right after I get back from Vegas. I just need to touch base with the university where the event is held one more time, just to kind of get some things nailed down. The dates set and all that stuff is cool, but we may be expanding it space-wise a little bit, and I need to touch base with my contact at the university there about figuring that out. But otherwise, yeah, everything is go this year. So it's not going to be like a month before the show and then I open it up to let people sign up to run events. I'm going to do it a lot earlier this year, because the reason last year that everything was late was because there was miscommunication between me and the university about whether or not it was actually going to happen or not. So that was problematic. But yeah, it's definitely happening again this year. And like I said, big announcement-y, mostly big information will come after Vegas. So yeah, but if you want to save the date, as it were, June 9th and 10th, which is a Saturday and a Sunday, 2018, Oshkosh, Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh. Be there or be square, or if you can't make it, you can't make it. I appreciate it, but yeah, last year we had about 65 people, and hopefully this year we'll have some more. Hopefully we'll have a couple more vendors. We had 2 vendors last year. Maybe we'll have 3 or 4 this year. We'll see how it goes. It's not a tournament. It's not a. It's the reason we call it an expo instead of a convention is because we want people to come and run events that are like demo events. It's an exposition. We want to show off gaming. We want people to come and go, oh, I've never played this game before, and then give it a try. It's not a thing where you bring your your tournament list and we're going to have a big contest or anything. No, we're just it's just try out a bunch of cool games. That's really what we're looking for. So we're looking for game masters, for GMs to bring stuff and set it up, and then other people to come and sit down and play. That's really the big deal. So we had a lot of different games last year, like homebrew, crazy like Lego, Star Wars Hoth stuff. We had stuff. The Noob Painter, he ran This Is Not a Test. There was Gaddis Gaming was there. They were running their Shattered Crown game. There was a guy there running Dark Age. There were people there running Malifaux. The guys from the southeastern Wisconsin Battle Badgers were running all of the Flames of War stuff. There was a lot of different games. My friend Peter was running. He ran Space Hulk at one point, and then Silent Death, which is an old school space combat game from back in the 90s, and that was a lot of fun. Had a bunch of people playing that, and it was a great time. And then Sam was there doing some seminars. We're hopefully going to do some more seminars this year, and go from there, really. But yeah, that stuff will be coming. What else have we got here? Torch asks, "Where's my Necron Codex at?" Yeah, that is a good question. I was kind of surprised. Yeah, I was saying this yesterday in the Patreon chat. I'm like, I don't know why they've they're talking about all they've got this new, what are those guys? The gold dudes, the custodes or whatever. Custodes. They've got those guys out there, they put those guys out. They put out a bunch. I'm like, but what about the orcs and the Necrons? They're still waiting. So, yeah, hopefully they'll get those out pretty soon. That'd be kind of cool. What else have we got? People saying they were hoping to be able to come to TMX this year. VJ Morph says he's going to do a Get VJ Morph to TMX GoFundMe. Well, that'll be fun. Well, let's see here. The Noob Painter says last year for TMX, because the Noob Painter came up from Texas, flew up from Texas, and Michael Strickler, he and his wife drove from Cheyenne, Wyoming. But Noob said that last year he arrived on Friday and then left on Monday and did some tourist stuff before and after. And then Matthew Sears says, tourist stuff in Oshkosh, ? Yes. There's a cool airplane museum that I used to work at, and there's a couple of microbrews now, if you're into that kind of thing. Actually, a new one since last year. There's Bare Bones, it's out by the highway more, but there's now another one that's downtown, and which is called Fifth Ward, I think. Fifth Ward, yeah. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Mr. Fancy Pantsy Chicago guy. Let's see here. Anyway, the LVO is better than Gen Con, says Lee Langston, in that you get to meet a bunch of game companies and can learn their games. Also, lots of other great entertainment. I like Gen Con fine. I do. It's gotten a little bigger than I would prefer. And I'm glad for the industry that it's gotten that big. For me personally, it's a little large. It's a little expensive. It's a little problematic that way. So I'm looking forward to LVO. I like the smaller conventions, like Adepticon's 4,000 people. That sounds big, but really in the grand scheme of things, when you compare it against 60,000 at Gen Con, it's small. But it's still, because it's so focused and everything is all about, wargaming for the most part, that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. And so I'm looking forward to also this thing too. There's almost looking forward to LVO as well. Oh yeah, that's a good point there, Moderator Matt. We also got a Potbelly now in Oshkosh, so I don't even need to leave town anymore, honestly. Let's see here. What about my Death Watch? Says Lee. They're probably need a book coming up too. What else have we got here? GW needs to sell new minis. They are a sales company. Everyone that plays already has minis. They will start new armies when people buy more minis. Yeah, I mean, there's very possibly reasoning like that. Like, well, it's the beginning part of the year. Let's release new models because people will buy them. Whereas if they just released the Orc Codex with no new models, but that's the thing is that a lot of these, like Necrons could use some new models, not a ton. Orcs could use some new models. So if you were to release, it's like when they released the Blood Angels Codex, I think they only released like one new model for Blood Angels, and it was like just a dude, like a Primaris dude. I don't think they released any other models for that line when they did it. And I'm like, I don't know. They know their numbers better than I do, but as a player, as a person who's interested in that stuff, sometimes you're like, well, but come on, man, So, because nearly everybody will always say, well, I'd buy more whatever if you guys would just make them. People are like, I'd buy more orcs if you guys would just make more orcs. And that's true with some people, but there's other people who are like, I have all the orcs I need. I just need the new book, please. And, they don't make as much money off of those people. So, and they're a business and they've got to feed their kids or whatever. And so, yeah, I can understand that to some degree. E1 Miniatures says, gaming conventions are really source. I think you might mean scarce. I'm not sure. Over here in Scotland, I wish there were more and they were more well advertised. Yeah, it's interesting. The conventions over in the UK in general, over in that side of the pond, as it were, seem to be very different than the ones over here. I had breakfast one time at Gen Con with a guy who was from the UK, and this was his first time at Gen Con, and I think his first time in America, and he was surprised by the fact that all the local restaurants around, downtown in Indianapolis all had giant posters and signs in their saying, welcome Gen Con, and that their waiters and waitresses were dressed up in like costumes and stuff like that. And he was like, that doesn't happen over in the UK. When we have a convention, it's like a one-day thing generally. Like if you look at Salute, which is like the biggest wargaming convention in the UK, I believe, it's on a Saturday. And people show up, and they buy some stuff from the vendors, and maybe they watch a couple of demos, and then they go home, or maybe they go drinking in the pubs and then go home. But, it's a very different thing, whereas Gen Con, is like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but that's just regular gaming in general. You look at something like Adepticon now. Adepticon technically sort of starts on Wednesday night now even, because that's like when you start to see some of the earliest seminars and like press things and whatever kind of fire off. So, yeah, it's a very different thing, definitely. The new painter says, are we going to have a TMX gathering at Potbelly? Probably not, because it's out by the highway, and so it's like not very close to where TMX is. So, but maybe at some point I might get some sandwiches from there. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. There's also a pretty good sandwich place across the street from the university too, so there's that too. But I should get them to sponsor Potbelly, definitely. I don't know if that probably won't work, but maybe. Esther says the new model was a Primaris Lieutenant, which already existed. They just had Blood Angels insignias on it. Well, that's that's something, I guess. But yeah, it was sort of surprising when they did that, and they came out with the Blood Angels book, and then like basically nothing. Like I said, other than that one model. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm assuming that they've run numbers and said, well, that's going to be the best thing for us to do. What else have we got here? VJ Morph asks, anyone else keen for Adeptus Titanicus? I'm pretty keen to see 8mm scale make a comeback. Used to love Epic. I never played Epic. I know they said it's coming, this new Titanicus thing. It'll be interesting to check out. I don't know if I'm going to probably play it, but I know that it'll be interesting to see. It sounds to me like it's going to be very, I don't want to say board gamey, not like it's like a bad thing, but I get the feeling it's going to be like, here's a board or a box and everything comes in it. And I don't even know if they'll necessarily go down the road like they did with, say, Blood Bowl or Necromunda, where they're like, okay, and then we're going to release extra stuff for it down there. I wouldn't be surprised if they made Adeptus Titanicus a one-off board game, kind of like Space Hulk, where like all the parts come in there, you're done, everything's cool. That would be interesting. By the way, I was at my local game store yesterday, and he's got like 3 copies of Dreadfleet, if any of you remember Dreadfleet. And I was like, I wonder if I should get Dreadfleet. You know, it did not sell very well. They made a zillion of them, and they did not sell very well. That all being said, I've heard that the models are really pretty cool, and that the game itself is not half bad. Let me know if you've played or Dreadfleet. I keep kicking around the idea. I think it would be sort of fun. But yeah, but my local store's got, like I said, like 3 copies of it sitting, and all dusty and stuff. So yeah. Let me see here. What seminars are you teaching at Adepticons? Asks 12 Neef. I'm teaching, they're basically kind of the same types of seminars I taught 2 years ago. One is going to be about the more technical side of making YouTube videos, so it's going to be talking about equipment and, you know, audio and video and editing and stuff like that, just to kind of give people an overview so that you can determine whether or not, you know, like, you know, so because sometimes people come to me and say, I really want to start a YouTube channel, but I don't know how. Well, this is what I'm hoping to at least give you a view into and explain some concepts and things like that, and whatnot. So that'll be the first seminar. And then the second seminar is more about marketing and branding and strategy, which talks a little bit more along the lines of, like, you know, like things you really need to think about. To be perfectly honest, I kind of think the second one, the marketing and branding one, is really more important because, you know, the technical stuff is the technical stuff, and you're going to get better at it as you go along. And you may start out just filming stuff on your cell phone, but then as you go along, you'll get better stuff eventually or whatever, if you're really into it. But the strategy and the concepts behind that kind of stuff, I think, is a lot more important. So, you know what I mean? And that's the stuff I want to talk a little bit more about. But yeah, so those are the 2 different things I'm going to be doing there. Ryan Cullen says, are you playing any 40k? In my experience, it has become Primark Hammer, not so much Warhammer in the 3rd to 4th edition sense. I haven't played... I haven't played in a couple of months. Yeah, I haven't played in a couple of months. I've got my Chaos... I've got a 1,500 point Chaos army painted. I'm about to expand them to a 2,000 point army. The extra 500 points is about half painted. And... so, yeah, whereas my Primaris Marines are all built. I've got a 2,000 point army for regular Space Marine Primaris dudes. 2,000 points built, bases are textured, all the fanciness, everything's ready to go. I just need to prime them and then start painting. Otherwise, I haven't played it. I haven't played 40k in a bit since my Chaos stuff. I've been playing more Shadespire and... Age of Sigmar. What else have I been playing? I've been playing something. Well, I played a little bit of. I was at someone's house and we played some Zombicide, and that was fine. It's I don't own any Zombicide. Every once in a while I kick around the idea of getting maybe Black Plague, I think. Just because I think the models... it's supposed to be a slightly better rule system, and the models, I think, are pretty cool. So, but yeah, I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet. The problem is that I'm like, if I do that... Oh, I've played some Frostgrave, too. I forgot about that. But if I was to get Zombicide like Black Plague, then I'd be like, I got all these guys I got to paint, and I got a lot of other stuff to paint anyway, so... I mean, you don't have to paint them, obviously. It's really designed to be more of a board game. But, anyway, that's where I'm at. Let me see here. Adam, have you played any Dracula's America? I bought the book and I'm really excited to start on my Skinwalkers posse. I haven't yet. I've been reading it on and off. They sent me a copy of the book. They just sent me the newest book, 2, which I don't think is out yet. Hunter's something or other. I forget what it's called. And I do have some models... but yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I've watched a couple of bat reps, but sadly it's going to be probably a bit of a while, but it does look really cool. I really like the concepts behind it, and so that's kind of fun. But yeah. Danny Eccles says, I have Dreadfleet, and the minis are really great, really detailed sculpts. Haven't played it actually yet, though. Yeah, I've heard that a lot from people. But from some people, like I said, from some people I've heard that, yeah, it does definitely, like... You know, it does have a decent rule set, even though a lot of people haven't played it. I think it was just, like, weirdly not very... I think it was just poorly marketed, maybe. I think it was a tough follow-up after the super popularity of the Return of Space Hulk. And then they were like, okay, and here's our new game. And everyone's like, oh, I hope it's Mordheim or something like that. And then they're like, it's Dreadfleet. And everyone's like, I've never heard of that. What the heck is that? And so, yeah, it didn't work out as well as maybe they'd hoped. But I gotta say the models are pretty awesome looking. So Joel Stark says, just bought the starter kit for Shadespire. The wife and I love it. Yeah, it is a fun game. It really is a quick and easy, but yet tactically kind of deep to some degree, at least, game. And I'm going to be really interested to see what the events at LVO and at Adepticon and stuff like that look like for this upcoming year for Shadespire. I think it's going to be very interesting. Michael Strange says that Zombicide Black Plague is phenomenal. Oh, that's a ringing endorsement. I appreciate it. Yeah, like I said, if I was going to get one, that's probably the one I would probably get. I've got friends that have got like all the old ones and all the original ones and had bought it on tons of the Kickstarters and have a zillion models and all that stuff. But I think if I was just to get something, it'd probably be Black Plague. Lee Langston says, I've been looking at Gloomhaven. I won a copy of Gloomhaven back in May and sat on it. I could have literally sat on it. That box weighs 100 pounds. All right, not 100 pounds, but it's very large and it's very heavy. And so I was like trying to think about like, I don't know if I'm going to play it. I'm like, I'll probably put it on eBay because it seemed to be selling for real well at the time. And then eventually I ended up just selling it to one of the guys I work with, and so I just sold to him for like $100, and because he'd started playing it at a friend's house and was like, oh, this is really cool, I want that. So now he's got a copy of it. So it's gone to a good home finally. Let me see here. Dorn Jr. says, Adam, I think you have the secret of the YouTube algorithm with regular uploads at the same time. Another channel has grown from 7 to 11,000 subs in a few weeks, and they had regular posts at the same time. Well, that's a huge jump in a few weeks. I would say that it's not just... I would say that consistency is key. I'll tell you that every day of the week. And if I tell you every day of the week, I'll tell you on the same time every day of the week. Yeah, going up 4,000 subs in a few weeks, that is more likely... you had a video or two that got real big real quick, and then that also helps with bringing in a lot of views and a lot of subscribers. But yeah, like it took me... I'm almost to my 5-year anniversary. My 5-year anniversary for the channel will be coming up in March 1st, I want to say. It took me 2.5 years to get to 10,000 subscribers. So to go 4,000 subscribers in a couple of months, that's pretty good. And again, I said that's more than just being consistent, but consistency is key. It took me, like I said, 2.5 years to get to 10,000 subscribers, and I was not consistent at all. I was all over the board. And then just shortly after hitting 10,000 subscribers, I thought, you know what, I'm going to start doing this every week. I'm going to do it at the same time, same day, every week. And I started doing that, and then it took me 9 months to get to 20,000. So I basically gained another 10,000 in 9 months. And then I did, let's see. And then I think it took me to get to 30,000. I think it took 6 months. And then 40,000 took me to be like 5 months. And now right now I average about 10,000 every 4 months. So that's not too bad. But that's the clip that I'm at right now. And again, it's a consistency thing. So like I said, it takes a while, and it takes a while to start to snowball, and really move along. So patience is key. Consistency is key. Being patiently consistent is also key. That's the type of stuff, that and more will be types of things I'll be talking about during the seminars. Where are we at? 10:15. All right, let me see here. Devin Jones says, Gloomhaven is fantastic. Started last week and have painted all the starting classes. Yeah, I've heard really great things. And I know it came out and then was super crazy hard to find. And then they did a Kickstarter for like the second printing or something crazy like that. And it's just finally getting into people's hands again recently. But I was sitting on it all summer. I don't know why. I should have probably done something with it. more than just like sit at it. Again, I didn't literally sit on it, but I could have because it's very heavy. Devin Jones says also the Black Plague heroes are great miniatures, perfect for D&D and Frostgrave. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point too. If I could find one that worked out real well for Frostgrave, that'd be a good idea. Joel Stark says, after GW releases the next 2 warbands for Shadespire, do you think they'll release more or focus on releasing more cards and stuff? I get the feeling that... So the next 2 releases for Shadespire should be the Skaven and the Fireslayer Dwarves. Because those were in the original... Those were the 6 factions that were in the original instruction booklet in the starter box. I don't know what they'll focus on next. They may release another tile set. I don't know that they'll release more cards. I think the cards will generally be tied to the models, but I don't know that for sure. I just assume that. If anything, I think they'll probably try to pick another couple, maybe another 4 factions. I can tell you right now, I'd love to see a Seraphon faction, because I'm just kind of itching to paint some Seraphon, but I don't want to start a Seraphon army. For those of you that don't know, Seraphon equals lizard people. So I'd love to see them do one of those. So we've got Death already. We've got Orcs. If they would do Seraphon, and they're going to do Skaven. I can't think of any others that I want after that. Yeah, not really. I mean, maybe something kind of like Nergal would be sort of cool. Something kind of Blight Kings would be neat, actually, because then I could use them to add into my Blight Kings for Age of Sigmar. That might be kind of cool. Let me see. What else have we got? I'm going to close this window. I'm getting this weird, hey, you're getting a lot of CPU usage. I'm not sure why. I probably should have rebooted my computer before I started this. That would help. Excuse me. Gary Morley says, hey, Adam, want to do a session on old school sculpting. Don't know how we would do it over Skype, but would happy to do it. I don't know. I have not really... Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out Skype, frankly. I would love to have guests on this show from time to time, and I need to figure out how to properly do it with Skype. The issue currently is that the problem I've had in the past is that I can see the person on Skype, but then they can't see or hear me very well. And so, yeah, it's because I'm not using Google Hangouts, which... Google Hangouts stinks generally, so that's one of the reasons I'm not using it. I'm using just normal YouTube Live, and I'm using a program called XSplit, and XSplit will work with Skype, but I need to sit down and practice a little bit. Potentially at some point I'm going to sit down and practice maybe with moderator Matt, and then he can be a guest on the show, and sometime we'll talk about all kinds of cool stuff, including Rec Age, of course, but then he'll also be to some degree kind of a guinea pig, which will be helpful. But yeah, we'll give it a try, though, soon. I don't know. As far as sculpting, yeah, I don't know. That seems like it's way... I don't know. At some point, maybe. Sculpting is befuddling to me, so, we'll see how it goes. I don't know that a lot of people do... Maybe, if it was not sculpting from scratch, but, adding green stuff onto current models to help convert and kit bash, that I think would be useful to the beginning gamer. But the beginning gamer, which is really kind of to some degree, the beginning hobbyist is kind of really what this channel is all about, most likely not going to start by sculpting their own models from scratch, generally, but we'll see how it goes. But it looks like some other people are interested in traditional mini sculpting tutorials. You should start a channel. You should come to my seminars and then learn how to start a channel. So that's see, there you go. It all comes around. Adam, have you had a chance to look at Test of Honor stuff you received? I looked through the box and looked at the models. They're really nice. They're like ABS plastic, like GW's plastic, or weird miniatures plastic for what they do, Malifaux, and the new plastics from Team Yankee and the stuff from from Flames of War and whatever, the newer plastics. They're the same type of metal or material like that. They are not heroic sculpts. They're much more realistic, so they're real thin. They have really thin little spears and stuff, which I'm a little nervous about, but you know, it makes sense. I told the patrons yesterday during the chat, I'm going to have a local commission painter paint them up for me. He and I are doing a trade. He's a friend of mine, and we've been going to Adepticon for years together and stuff, and playing games against each other. And he's been getting more and more into commission painting. And anyway, so he needed a name for his painting studio and a logo, so I'm working on that. And in trade, then he's going to paint up my Test of Honor guys. But I haven't got a chance to play it or anything like that yet. So, but I'm looking forward to it. I do want to build some what do you call it? I want to build some terrain for it. You know, maybe like those, I can't remember what they're called. Those, you know, those little archways and things like that. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember them. But I want to build some things like that maybe for the battles. I think they'd be kind of fun. What else? Adam I. Painting the Corn Demon starter set for the Malign Portents Muster. Any hints on how to get it done by February 10th? Head down and work hard. You know, that's pretty much it. You spend, you know, plan ahead for the time. Plan ahead. You know, put it in your phone. That because the thing that I find is that sometimes I come home from work and then I sit down and then we eat dinner and then you're watching a little bit of television and then all of a sudden it's 9 o'clock and you're like, oh shoot, you know. So what I do then, if I know I need to get some painting done or just really want to get some painting done, I put like an alarm in my clock or in my phone or whatever that says, oh, don't forget, go to the basement and paint stuff, jerk. And then that way, like at 6:30 or 7, it like lets me know and I'm like, oh yeah, I should stop watching this, you know, mind-numbing dumbass television and go downstairs and do some actual stuff. And so, you know, sometimes it just takes that kind of thing to remind you. AKA Starminer says Dreadfleet is actually a very good game. Played it pretty regularly for about a year. I think the problem GW had with marketing it is they didn't cater enough to the Man of War nostalgia. That's probably very true too. I could see that. Yeah. Because there were a lot of people who were really into Man of War, and this didn't look like Man of War, and it wasn't marketed at all like Man of War, but a lot of the people probably who dug Man of War might have liked this just because, again, it was sea battles and stuff. It comes with like a 3.5 foot by 5 foot like a cloth sea map, and then a bunch of ships and terrain and all kinds of cool stuff. So yeah, I think that'd be sort of interesting. Torch asks, hey Adam, will you be broadcasting anything at LVO? Probably not. Mostly because I am so far, I think, 0 for 2, if not 0 for 3, of trying to broadcast things from, well, I mean, no, that's not true. I have done a couple just with my cell phone. Like, so maybe I'll do something like that, where I walk around with my cell phone and do some like live streaming or whatever that way. But actually trying to sit down and do a show, not so good. Well, okay, let me take that back. The one that I did from TMX worked okay, but not great. It was very stuttery and crappy, but that was because the webcam, this one right here, poke, that one hates my laptop for some reason. I don't know why. So, and I hadn't tested that. I just assumed if I plugged it into my brand new laptop, which is pretty powerful, it's a Core i7 and a bunch of other numbers, I figured it would work fine, and I plugged it in, and it did not work fine. And there was plenty of internet. Universities generally have pretty good internet. I had crazy amounts of internet, and just eventually what I did, if you watched that episode ever, I eventually just unplugged the damn webcam and then just used the webcam that was built into like the lid of the laptop. And that worked okay. But I tried doing a show from Valhalla. That didn't work at all. And I tried doing one once, I think, from a hotel room, I don't know, a couple of years back for maybe Adepticon. I don't know. It didn't work. So I don't plan on doing anything specific. If anything, like I said, might carry around my phone and try to do some live streaming that way from the convention. It's hard to say. Yeah, we'll see. What else have we got here? VJ Morph says, I assumed Dreadfleet was just updated Man of War. Well, I don't know. That's a good question. There's a lot of chat back and forth, which I always like to see. I'm glad to see you people, make friends and that kind of stuff. Moon Knight says, "Hey Adam, I'm just sort of getting into wargaming, so I bought Space Hulk. Is it a starting game?" I would say yes, frankly. It's I did a video years and years and years ago about gateway games. So for those of you that were relatively new, a gateway game, in my opinion, is a game that kind of sort of is a bridge between, say, board gaming and tabletop wargaming. So Space Hulk is a perfect example because it's board gamey. It has tiles and cardboard and stuff like that, and you move along the squares and all that kind of jazz. But it still has the kind of it still has range. It still has line of sight. Has a bunch of other features in it, concepts that wargamers are into or that have to you have to use. Sometimes you see these games that they call a miniatures board game, and it's just a map. Like, oh, and here's the map of the world, but there's all these cool miniatures, and you're like, well, that's not really a war game, not a miniatures war game, not a tabletop war game, and like we consider it. You're just using really nice little plastic counters to say I took over France or whatever, you know what I mean? But it doesn't have to do it's not range and line of sight and cover and those types of concepts that are important in wargaming. Space Hulk is good for that though because it kind of eases you into it. Zombicide, kind of the same way. I think another good gateway game is, and the gateway games don't always have to be from board games to war games. They can sometimes be gateways between video games and war games, or maybe like movies, like Star Wars. So like X-Wing is a good gateway game, that kind of stuff. Lots of people that play X-Wing also really like Magic the Gathering because it's got lots of cards in X-Wing and you can figure out your deck and go that direction and whatever, but you don't have to paint all that stuff, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of those different things. I'm getting a lot of people telling me that I should really buy Dreadfleet. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't know. Danny Eccles says that cloth seascape that came with Dreadfleet is amazing, really good quality fabric, and it works brilliant for a backdrop for taking pics of your minis. Oh, well, there you go. That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. So you don't just get one game, you get one game and one backdrop for miniatures. It's big enough, I could take headshots. I could get like a cool, looks like I'm on the ocean kind of a thing. That might be kind of fun. Let's see here. What else have we got? So Space Hulk is the marijuana of the wargaming world. I don't think so. I mean, I get what you're saying, but no. Useful G says, I always expect a pachow when Adam refers to older videos, even in the live show. Man, if I could, that'd be pretty cool. If I could pachow on demand. If I could pachow in real life, that'd be pretty cool. Doesn't work out, though, sadly. Let's see here. What else have we got? Battletech. Great gateway game when you go from quick start rules to the full rules. Easy hop to Warhammer 40K. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. One of the earliest miniatures games I played was Battletech, back in the 80s. Yeah, in the 80s, I was playing it. Before, yeah, I remember playing it. We didn't even have models. We had like little cardboard standees, and I want to say I was in middle school, and then I didn't play it again until college. That one's a little bit of a tough. That's a tough sell to your average person. I'm obviously nowhere near an average person, sadly, or good for me, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, there are. That game's got a lot of bookkeeping going on. The original BattleTech. There's a lot of. I'm not saying you need a spreadsheet, but you kind of need a spreadsheet, and so trying to get that into the hands of newer players is difficult sometimes, which is why Catalyst has designed their new, I think it's called First Strike rules, but now they're difficult to find, which is interesting. Catalyst got some issues with those things, it seems, but anyway, they're trying, so that's cool. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say these days, especially, that classic BattleTech is a gateway game. But you know, the models aren't super hard to paint. You know, because they're basically vehicles, so they're not, and they're real little vehicles. I mean, they're like only this big. Whereas like painting like a big like a Land Raider or something big like that can be daunting if you're new. But painting a little tiny robot guy, that's not too hard because you don't have to put like faces on them and skin and hair and stuff like that. I mean, you can. It's weird if you do, but you can. DJ Todd P. Harris says Star Wars Armada is a great starter game. Yeah, I mean it's in the same realm to some degree as X-Wing. I think that if I had not gotten into X-Wing, I might have gotten into Armada as instead. After playing Armada, after playing X-Wing, I was like, I don't see myself doing both of these. And since I already had a whole bunch of X-Wing stuff, I wasn't getting into Armada. But you know, there was some guys playing at the shop yesterday actually when I was there, so that's cool. It's always fun to watch. I mean, it's got a bunch of big cool ships and stuff like that, so that's cool. Necromunda is kind of a gateway game. No, yeah, true. Arcadia Quest can be a great gateway game. Yeah, there's a lot of good gateway games out there, honestly. I should probably redo that video one of these days because there's been a whole bunch of new ones. But yeah. VJ Morph says, can't wait to teach my son Battletech when he gets old enough. He's only 2, so it's going to be a while. Well, yeah. I don't know if I could handle regular Battletech today myself. And I'm older than 2. Well, no, I actually did play it at Gen Con 2015. I was there last year. It was 2000. Yeah, I think it was 2015. I had heard that there had been some updates to classic Battletech and they'd streamlined it some, and I wanted to try it out. So I went and played a demo, and I couldn't tell where they had streamlined it. So, but it did come back to me relatively quickly, so that was nice. And I was playing against a guy. It was like one-on-one. We were just like these little 2-foot maps, and we were all playing against each other and kind of learning as we went. It was called Boot Camp, I think, is what they called the event. Anyway, he also had played years and years and years ago, and so we were both lapsed players, and then we both picked up on it really quickly, and then we kept getting ahead of the demonstration and stuff, and he's like, no, you guys shouldn't be doing that yet. And we're like, yeah, we're fine. It's just, you're good. So anyway, but yeah, that was the last time I played it. I have been on and off from playing the new PC game, which is in beta, which I like a lot too because it's turn-based, so it's not super twitchy. You know what I mean? And that's kind of cool. And it's not like you're not in the cockpit; you're just kind of looking. So it reminds me a lot more of the tabletop game. I mean, I used to like the cockpit games a lot, but yeah, I do now kind of more prefer the turn-based, sort of not exactly top-down, but kind of top-down. Irrational Gaz says, just caught your Father of Wargaming video last week, and as an H.G. Wells fan, it blew my mind. It was the video that sold me on your channel. Love the content. Well, glad to hear it. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people who know H.G. Wells know that he also was kind of the father of tabletop wargaming. Of course, when he first started, it wasn't tabletop wargaming. It was mostly floor wargaming. If you go through and read the book, there are pictures in there. And a lot of times it was either on the floor of the rumpus room at his home or outside on the lawn, actually. So that was cool too. But yeah, that was a fun video to make. Dan Manning says, started playing Battletech in '87 and didn't have much trouble getting the non-gaming friends involved. We did have an RPG background though. See, yeah, my very first game that wasn't like Monopoly or, Scrabble, or not Scrabble, Boggle? Trouble? I don't know, one of those games. The one where you push the thing down and it pops and then there's dice inside. Anyway, my first like not Monopoly type game was 5th grade. I started playing D&D. So going from D&D to Battletech, you're right. It's not a big jump. If you're going from Monopoly to Battletech, you're like, what is all this paperwork and all this stuff going on? I just want to push the shoe around and try to not go to jail, and that's kind of how it works. But it's a little bit more difficult, making that jump. Whereas when you're like, well, if you can get the person involved in something like, say, RPGs, Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, and they're used to having this big sheet full of all the information about their character and keeping track of how much rope they have and the gold pieces and the silver pieces and all that junk, then saying, look, now you're going to play as a big giant robot, and you have to keep track of how much heat you have and how much left arm armor you have left. That's hard to say. That's not as big of a jump. I will agree, definitely. Torch asks, anyone excited that Giant Killer Robots is hopefully coming soon? I am, because I did the Kickstarter. It's one of the last Kickstarters I've done. I don't think I've done much in the way... No, I take that back. That Kickstarter was before the Wreck Age Kickstarter. I think the Wreck Age Kickstarter was the last Kickstarter that I've done. I've been not paying attention to Kickstarter as much lately. But Giant Killer Robots, I should be getting my set soon. So I bought the regular base set, plus also the unpainted bigger. There's the four robots that come in the box and they're painted, but then I'm also getting another version of just them that are unpainted and unbuilt, so I can build them and paint them myself. I think it was called the Painter's Edition, strangely enough, and I did a video about that, which I can't chow, sorry. But yeah, so that was from what I've been reading, it was supposed to ship in December. I mean, if you followed the rules, if you followed what their original thing, but there's always some sort of problem. The biggest problem that I've noticed recently was that the box that they had designed, as it turned out, was too big to be properly shipped, or there was some sort of problem, so they had to redesign the box, and then that was a whole thing. But yeah, it is supposed to ship. The Giant Killer Robots is supposed to be shipping very soon. For those of you that don't know, Giant Killer Robots is one of the first, I think it's the first game that was designed and produced by Weta Workshops out of New Zealand. And if you've heard that name before, it's because they're the ones that do all the special effects for the Lord of the Rings movies, and District 9 and Chappie and all that stuff, and they're just amazing. And they just decided one day, you know what, we've got sculptors and drawers and animators and this and that and the other thing, we should just start making games. So they did, and Giant Killer Robots is the first one, and it's really cool. So if you get a chance, just go look up GKR or Giant Killer Robots, and you'll find out more information about it. I'm looking forward to it, because that one also seems like it's going to be a gateway game. You're going to have four big pre-painted models in the game, and then there's smaller models which you can paint but come in colored plastic that match up for the four colors. And it is a battle in the ruins. It's a battle over salvage rights, really, in the ruins of like a big city that's abandoned, like LA or Chicago or New York or whatever. And you're trying to knock over buildings, but you're also trying to sort of get rid of the other robots and do a bunch of stuff. And it looks very interesting. So yeah, definitely looking forward to it. David Turner says, Wargaming started in the playground when I was a child in the 80s. Kids gathered around a single copy of White Dwarf. Oh, that's cool. Matt Schaub says, anyone play Rumble Slam? Interested in thoughts on the game? I've never even heard of Rumble Slam. Is it wrestling? Is it a wrestling game? I've never heard of it. It sounds like wrestling. I mean, if I had to guess. FitTech says, my GKR should be coming with my Mythic Battles Pantheon. I also just backed Nemesis. Going to be a good few years for board games for me. Yeah, well, that does sound like it's going to be good. Michael Strange says, please do a feature vid on GKR. I might. I mean, like I did. I talked about it. I did a video a while back about it. But once I get it, maybe I will. At least I'll maybe show it off a little bit to some degree. Let's see here. Walk81 says, looking forward to the Shadespire Skaven box. Yeah, I am too. Like, I'm probably... I don't think I'm going to buy the Fire Slayers, the Dwarves. I'm just not super into dwarves, but I might just to have the first 6 factions. But I'm definitely going to buy the Skaven one, because I do like Skaven. My Blood Bowl team is Skaven, which I'm almost finished with. So yeah, I could definitely see doing that. Let's see. Sam Hinchy says, I'm going to give my Fire Slayers pants with green stuff, and then when they come out for Shadespire. Yeah, they could use maybe some pants. That's the problem with the Fire Slayers, is they don't they're not super into pants. Matthew Sears, moderator Matt, suggests maybe green stuff, a sweatshirt on some of those Slaanesh demons. Yeah, I could see that too. That's. I think it would be fun to, really, honestly, it would be hysterical to take some of the demonettes and put them into, like, really comfortable clothing. Like some, like sweatpants and maybe like an oversized t-shirt. Just something that because they would be comfortable that way. I think it would be good. That makes me laugh. All right. Let's see. What else have we got? Randall says, doesn't surprise me about Weta. I get the impression Peter Jackson is a big fan of gaming. Yeah, I think that, I don't know about gaming in general, but I do think he's interested in, from what I can tell, like miniatures and sculpts and things like that and whatever. I've heard from a bunch of different people that George R.R. Martin, the guy who writes all of the Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, those books, and they based the TV show off of, the guy who does that author, he's got a huge collection of painted miniatures that he buys from like pro painters and people like that, just because he wants to have a really super cool collection. So I've talked to a couple of different painters who are like trying to like get their stuff purchased by him so that they could just say, well, George R.R. Martin owns some of my pieces in his collection. I think that'd be pretty cool. So yeah, it's interesting to kind of see some of that, and it does totally make sense that Peter Jackson would be into that kind of stuff too. So, sure. Let's see here. What else have we got? Peter Pan says the Slanesh Demonettes need a cocktail dress or an evening gown, something classy. Classy. Yeah, sure. I suppose if they're going out, to something fancy, but otherwise, if they're just hanging around the house, I would wear sweatpants. So it makes sense. David Turner says, was HeroQuest a thing in the U.S.? I think so. I'm pretty sure. I swear I know people who played it. I never did when it first came out, but I swear people did. Yeah. Matthew Sears says, HeroQuest was indeed a thing here. Fun and Amazing says, do you like Game of Thrones? My wife has read all the books. I have not. I've kicked around the idea of listening to the books, but it seems like it would take really super crazy long. We've watched the first 4 seasons. Like, we would get them on Blu-ray. We haven't watched them. We don't have HBO or anything, but we've watched the first 4 seasons of the show, and we've owned the 5th season for like a year now almost, and just not actually watched it because, whatever, it'll be there. People talk about spoilers and stuff, and the thing about being old is that if there's like a spoiler and you hear about it and you're like, oh, now I know that the secret is such and such. If you wait long enough, eventually you'll forget because you're old. And so, there are times that I've been like, oh, that's right. Yeah, that did happen in that. Oh, yeah, I heard about that. No, yeah. So it doesn't really bother me that much. Yeah. Torch says, I kickstarted the Game of Thrones Wargaming box from Kumanir Not Games. Yeah, I think at Adepticon this year there's going to be demos of that. I'm interested. I think they call it Song of Ice and Fire or whatever. So yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how that works out. I would like to give it. The thing is that it's a rank and flank game in that you move the units like as a block. And I've never been into that style of game, but I do want to see the models like up close. I've seen pictures and stuff, but I would like to see them up close. So yeah. VJ Morph says, HeroQuest was massive for me. I got Space Crusade on the strength of HeroQuest. Yeah, I think I played Space Crusade. I'm pretty sure I played Space Crusade at one point in college, but I never played HeroQuest. Excuse me. I'm mostly almost getting better, but not quite. And my camera's very wiggly. See if I do this. Wiggle, wiggle. I'm going to try to... Very soon, this is going to change up here, this thing. What's going to happen is I bought this device made by a company called El Gato, which is Spanish for the gato. And you plug it into your computer, and then you plug an HDMI cable into the dongle, the little device, and then plug the HDMI cable into a regular camera, like a big camera. I don't have one around. Well, no. Like, I have this Fuji that I like a lot, but this is not but I'm talking about like interchangeable lens type camera, kind of like the cameras that I use downstairs when I shoot my normal videos. So I'll be able to plug it into that, and then I'll be able to focus it and set all the cool stuff that I'm used to setting, aperture, shutter, all that cool stuff, and hopefully like these will start to look a little nicer. Like this will be a little blurrier back here, and the lighting will be a little bit more regulated. Like right now, if I do like this, sure, it's great. I could focus right there, but then everything's out of focus, and it comes back relatively okay. But anyway, the whole point is that hopefully soon that this will look a little bit better. I've purchased the item. I've got it. I just need to test it a little bit and then find a better tripod. This is currently on an arm. If I had a mirror, I would show you. This is currently on an arm that's just attached to my microphone. So if I move the microphone, I'm moving the camera as well, which is not ideal. And if I clunk on the table, it makes everything vibrate. So a little mini tripod and all that stuff will hopefully be coming soon, which will make at least the image look a little better and a little bit more stable. That's the plan, at least. Paul Knox says, I still have the PC isometric game of Space Crusade. It was really difficult. Oh, I didn't even know they made one of those. Interesting. Sam Hinchy says, are there any Dune tabletop games? There was a Dune board game / kind of war game. Not miniature war game, not like that, but like more of like a little, chips and cardboard bits kind of war game. And it was just called Dune, I think, and it was super detailed. I played it once, or was sort of given a demo of it once at a gaming convention or something, some sort of event. I don't know much about it other than that. You'd probably be able to find it on Board Game Geek if you were into that kind of stuff. So, what else have we got? Check out the Hero Quest box art if you've never seen it. Possibly the best piece of marketing aimed at 10-year-olds ever. Yes. Although Gene Stealers were in Space Crusade, yeah, they did have some. I remember that. It was a cool game. 12 Neef says, Adam, I really think you should do a podcast. Love to hear your dulcet tones outside of the power-sucking, data-crushing YouTube. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is kind of like a podcast. You could technically just not look at me and then just, which I'm hoping that a bunch of you, and you do say that in the past, you guys are working on stuff and you're probably just listening while you're actually doing a thing, working on stuff. So it kind of acts as a podcast. I have kicked around the concept of the podcast. I don't know. I don't listen to very many podcasts that are just one person. I sometimes listen to Will Wheaton's podcast, which is generally just him talking. But most podcasts I listen to, usually it's multiple people. And then there's the interplay back and forth between those folks and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. I've kicked it around, but I haven't kicked it around lately. Let's just say that. What else have we got here? Talking of fire and ice, the Expanse novels were written by George R.R. Martin's editor. Being more of a sci-fi and fantasy fan, I'd thoroughly recommend them as audiobooks. I think my wife might be watching The Expanse on television. I want to say she's watched at least the first season, if it's the one I'm thinking of. And I watched a little bit of one episode once, and I was like, and it was weird. Yeah, so it'll be interesting. Maybe I should look into those audiobooks too. Juice Abuse says, greetings from New York, painting some World Eater Berserkers. Any ideas on GW making more Primark models, i.e. Angron? Wait, didn't they already make Angron? I thought they already... Well, I mean, Finecast, or not Finecast. Not Black Library, the other one. Forge World, that's what I'm trying to say. Forge World, I'm 98% sure they made an Angron model. So I don't know if they'll make a plastic one out of regular GW. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Yeah, I haven't heard anything new. Basically, there's there used to be several different websites out there that were places everyone went for just the tidbits and the droplets of rumor information that you were going to get about Games Workshop, and those websites did really well. And then about a couple of years ago, Games Workshop's like, hey, guess what? We're making our own website, and we're going to just put stuff up there. And it's called Warhammer Community, and we're not going to have rumors so much anymore. We're just going to be like, oh, guess what? We're doing this. And so... we don't. So basically, the stuff that I might know is going to be the exact same stuff that you know. I don't hear any whispers from the Warp. I just go and look at that website from time to time, and they're like, oh, they're making Shadespire. Oh, that's cool, or whatever. So now that being said, if they play the same way they played last year at Adepticon, then at Adepticon last year, out of nowhere, on Wednesday night, they were like, oh, guess what? We're making this game. It's called Shadespire. And everyone was like, oh, that's really sort of cool. And they're like, yeah, that is cool. Do you want to come over here and play it? Because we got demos set up. And people went like, what? And so, I mean, admittedly, they were beta, but they, you know, they had demos and everything, and they announced it, boom, and all that stuff. Now, if they do that again this year, which they may or they may not, it may be Adeptus Titanicus or whatever, which they've already announced, so that won't be a surprise. If they want to make a surprise at every Adepticon, A, that might get expensive and difficult to stick with. But B, if they do want to do it, maybe it'll be, maybe they'll announce Mordheim. Maybe they'll, who knows? I mean, it's hard to say. But those rumors, they're still holding relatively close to the vest. But, you know, when they did announce Shadespire didn't come out till like November? Or October or November. I think it was October. So, no, maybe it was November. Anyway, but they were showing it off in March, you know, the previous. So, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do this year. I didn't go to the event last year on Wednesday night because I didn't get to Adepticon until Thursday morning. But this year I'm getting there Wednesday afternoon. So I'll be at the event this year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and whatever. Plus, I'll also hopefully not have to stand around so much, waiting for my hotel room. Last year when we got there around lunchtime, and then I didn't actually get into the hotel room because they didn't have it ready to go until like 4 o'clock, which meant basically I just hung out with moderator Matt at their booth, which is fun and enjoyable. Don't get me wrong, but I still wanted to dump all my crap at the, you know, they were kind enough to let me dump my crap behind their booth. And by crap, I mean all my equipment. I know where the bathrooms are there. But yeah, so hopefully this year that'll all be taken care of ahead of time, and then it'll be fine. I mean, admittedly, I'm staying an extra night, so it's an extra expense, but whatever, it'll be fine. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking out the, whatever they're calling it, the press event or whatever for Games Workshop this year on Wednesday, the first, like, technically sort of pseudo first day of Adepticon. So I'll let you guys know about it once I find out whatever it is. You know, I'll tweet or Facebook or some sort of social media stuff and that kind of thing. Let me see here. Devin Jones says, strange question from a 40k noob. What third-party models and bits... Now, with third-party models and bits, how do you know what faction model they are supposed to be without having to know all the things? It's a tough one, I'm not going to lie. Because a lot of times the third-party companies that make stuff, they have to kind of skirt around using specific names. So instead of saying that these are Space Marine such-and-such shoulder pads, they will say that they are... And they'll come up with a different name that's not Space Marine, you know? Like earlier in the show, I was talking about that Wargame exclusive place. They've got a bunch of names that are kind of like the names that they should be, but are not exactly. So yeah, it's a little difficult, honestly. It does. The trick is that in general, once you're just starting out, I don't know that I would necessarily hop into conversions and kit bashing right off the bat. I would kind of like get used to your codex, build some stuff, go to town, and then say, okay, cool, now I'm going to start to maybe do some cool conversions on some HQ units, or I'm going to maybe make a cool squad of these guys and I'm going to convert them like that. But if you try to jump into conversions right away, I don't think it works super well because it's just difficult to kind of get that going, you know what I mean? So, and you're right, there's things you're just like, I don't know what the heck this is referenced to, so I'm not real sure about it yet. It's TJ Todd P. Harris says, I still have my copy of Hero Quest. I would almost like to try it. I think that there's I swear to God, there's maybe a iPad version of Hero Quest. I may own the iPad version of Hero Quest. Or maybe I'm thinking of something else. I don't know. I'll have to look. Let's see here. What else have we got? Give us Plastic Sisters of Battle. Yeah, well, probably at some point. See, eventually they will, and then people will be like, well, not like that. And, you know, but some people will be happy and other people won't. That's just, you know, life. Hey guys, I just arrived from a few games at the hobby store. What did I miss? Well, let's see. First we talked about the weather, and then we talked about a bunch of other stuff. So, generally the same stuff. Talked about LVO a little bit. Talked about Adepticon a little bit. I'm also going in between Adepticon in between LVO and Adepticon. Like I said, I might be going to Gamma in Reno, Nevada, the Game Manufacturers Association, I think, which doesn't spell Gamma, but it's close. Anyway, I might be going to that convention in early March, but I will also be going to Fire and Ice Convention, which is a small local convention. It's about 600 people, and it's in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, like the last weekend in February. So I'll be going to that. I'll either go just to hang out and play some games and maybe run some Song of Blades and Heroes, or if they ever get back to me, we may have a booth there for Game 4. So it's one or the other. Yeah. Devin Jones says, I was looking at Toughest Girls in the Galaxy, and they had some fantastic models, but I had no idea what factions they were aimed at. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so, yeah, I mean, a lot of the Toughest Girls in the Galaxy stuff that I remember seeing was either Sisters of Battle type stuff or, I want to say, Imperial Guard / Astra Militarum or whatever they're called these days. So, I mean, honestly, with them, you could even just email them and go, so I like this model. What factions it's supposed to be for? And they will probably tell you. Or you could do some just Google research and try to see if you could figure it out from there. But, yeah. The thing is that a lot of companies are gun-shy about calling the things that they make for 40K the actual things they are for 40K because they are concerned about getting sued from, Games Workshop. So that's kind of how it works. Yeah, so that's how that kind of goes. Let's see here. Peter Pan says there is a Steam version, Steam being the PC game thingy. There's a Steam version of Hero Quest, quite fun, but never having played the original, can't say anything about the rules. Okay, that makes sense. The Crone asks, do you like or dislike conversions? I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on the conversion. I generally enjoy doing some converting here and there. I don't do it a ton, but I do some of it here and there. So, yeah, I mean, I think if done well, it can be great. I think that sometimes they... Gesundheit. A cat sneezed right behind me. What are you doing, little girlie? Yeah, I mean, sometimes if they're not done right, or if they just don't fit the theme properly or whatever, or the pieces themselves are just like the wrong scale or whatever, it can look kind of weird. So, yeah. Matthew Sears says that you are thinking Warhammer Quest. You might be right. I'm pretty sure I think I have Warhammer Quest on the iPad. That makes more sense. What else have we got over here? Stupid caps lock. Yes. Matthew Sears says, Wreckage 2nd Edition is next week. He's responding to somebody else, but I'm just, what do we call that, signal boosting? Wreckage 2nd Edition is available next week, and it will be released on the website, and it'll be a PDF and probably something that you can buy as well, like a hardcover at some point, maybe, or not a hardcover, but, like an actual paper one. I don't know that it's originally released right away, but I believe that definitely the PDF is. So yeah, the 2nd edition of Wreckage will be available, so you should definitely give some love to Mr. Matthew Sears, moderator Matt, and check that out on the Wreckage website, which is actually the Hyacinth Games website, but it's wreckage.net, I believe, or rec-age. Back me up on that there, Matt. And Matthew Sears says, yes, we will be at TMX. So you've heard it here first, folks. I was talking a bit with the patrons yesterday about how he wasn't able to be at the TMX last year because he was in Iceland, being all fancy and whatnot. So yeah, but this year it sounds like they'll be coming up from the Chicago area, and so you'll be able to play demos and buy things and hang out with Matt, get your picture taken. Yeah, it'll be fun. We will have to be careful on Saturday night. Let's just put it that way. Matt came up for another smaller convention a couple of years back, and we were barely, we mostly made it out alive. Mostly, let's just say that. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes this year. Aaron Patterson says Bushido or Malifaux for first miniatures game. I don't know a ton about the Bushido mechanics. The models are really super cool. I would probably lean towards Malifaux because you're slightly more likely to be able to find other people to play with, frankly. Bushido is, I would say, a smaller selling game than Malifaux. So, yeah, I would maybe say Malifaux. Plus, nice plastic models and stuff. All right. Scott Rowe says, when will TMX be this year? June 9th and 10th at the same place in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, the university. I will be updating the website and making bigger announcements and things like that after I get back from Las Vegas to the Las Vegas Open, which I will be at this weekend. So again, if you are going to be at the LVO, the Las Vegas Open this weekend, hopefully stop by and say hi. I'll be doing 2 seminars. I'll be doing a media panel. I'll be walking around bugging people. I'll probably be not really gambling. I'm just not a gambler. But all those other things I'll be doing. So I hope to see those of you who are going to be at the LVO then. Rec-age.net is what Matt has told me. I can never remember if there's a hyphen or not. And so go check that out because the new version of the second edition of Rec-Age is coming out next week. So take a look at that. And that's pretty much it. I again appreciate your patience. Last week I was sick as a dog and woke up at 2:45 in the morning and grabbed my phone and said, I am not going to be able to do the live show. So the upside to doing this live show now on this week and getting on this schedule is it now leaps over both LVO and Adepticon. Otherwise, the show was going to be during LVO, which was not going to work because I said it seems to be really hard to do these when I travel, and also at Adepticon. So I could have maybe found some place with decent internet at Adepticon. I could have talked to the guys who run it and maybe found an office or something. But this way, I'll do a show before and after Adepticon. So this will be the schedule now for a while, and this will be where it's going to go. So keep an eye on the Facebook page to find out when things are going on and all that kind of stuff. And I hope everybody has a good couple of weeks until the next time. And like I said, if you're going to be at LVO, stop by, say hi. And that's pretty much it. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks a lot.